Kara never thought delivering a package could change her life, but when she knocked on the door of the sprawling mansion, everything she knew about fate took a sudden turn. The door creaked open, and there he was. Clint Eastwood. She froze. Her heart skipped a beat, and for a moment she thought she might collapse right there. It wasn't just the fact that she was standing in front of one of the biggest movie legends of all time. It was the way he looked at her, as if he could see, right through her, straight into her soul. "Can I help you?" Clint's voice was calm, measured, but there was an undeniable strength behind it that made Kara feel like she was in the presence of someone who had lived through it all. Kara blinked, trying to shake off the shock. I have a package for you, Mr. Eastwood," she stammered, her hands slightly trembling as she held out the small box. She'd delivered packages before, to wealthy clients, to celebrities, but none like this. None who had the same weight behind them. Clint stepped forward, his eyes never leaving hers as he took the package. He didn't just grab it. He studied her for a moment, like he knew she wasn't just another delivery driver. "Thank you, Kara," he said, reading her name off the delivery slip. His voice softened for a second, almost like a knowing smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "You must be new to this area. I don't think I've seen you around before." Kara felt her cheeks flush. She wasn't new to this area. She was just barely scraping by, working 2 jobs to make ends meet. But something in his gaze, something unspoken, made her feel like he could see her struggle. "Yes, I'm just trying to get by," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Clint's expression shifted just slightly. Was it pity, sympathy, or something else? It was hard to tell. "I can see that," he said, his eyes softening. Then, almost like he had made up his mind about something, he stepped aside. "Come on in. There's something I think you need to hear." Kara's heart raced. What could Clint Eastwood possibly want with a simple delivery girl like her? But as she hesitated, she realized this moment was already much bigger than a delivery. This wasn't just about a package, it was about a chance, and she wasn't about to walk away from it. Kara stepped inside the mansion, her heart pounding louder with every step she took. The interior was even more magnificent than she had imagined, the walls lined with grand paintings, the floors gleaming with polished marble. It was the kind of place you only saw in movies, and now she was walking through it like it was normal. Clint led her through a hallway filled with vintage, movie posters and relics of his storied career. It was like stepping into a piece of Hollywood history, yet something about this moment felt completely out of place. "Have a seat," Clint said, gesturing to a chair by the large window overlooking the sprawling grounds. Kara hesitated, unsure what was happening, but she sat anyway, her nerves still on edge. Clint took a seat across from her, his eyes never leaving her face. The silence in the room was thick, almost like he was weighing something in his mind. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "You've been delivering packages for a while, haven't you?" Kara nodded, unsure where this was going. "What's it like? You know, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet?" Clint's question caught her off guard. It was blunt, direct, yet somehow compassionate. She found herself opening up before she even realized it. "It's hard," she said quietly. "I'm just trying to do what I can to keep things together. I barely have enough time for my kids." There was a vulnerability in her voice, something she rarely allowed others to hear. Clint's gaze softened. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low but firm. "You don't have to do this forever, Kara. You've got potential, more than you know. And that's why I wanted you to come in, because I think you're at a crossroads." Kara blinked, trying to process his words. What did he mean? Why was he saying this? She wasn't sure if he was being kind, or if he saw something in her that no one else did. But in that moment there was something about Clint Eastwood, his confidence, his certainty, that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in her struggle. Clint smiled, the warmth in his expression unmistakable. "There's an opportunity I want to offer you, but it won't be easy. It's going to take a lot of courage and a lot of heart." Kara felt a rush of emotions, uncertainty, excitement, fear. But most of all, she felt a spark of hope. Kara's mind raced. As Clint spoke, his words slowly sinking in. An opportunity. What did he mean? He couldn't possibly be serious, could he? She was just a delivery driver struggling to make ends meet. What could Clint Eastwood possibly see in her? She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped herself. The last thing she wanted was to sound foolish or, worse, ungrateful, but the curiosity in her chest was suffocating. Clint leaned back in his chair, his hands folding in front of him. He seemed so calm, as if this was all part of a plan he'd been carrying out for years. His presence filled the room, and Kara couldn't help but feel that she was standing on the edge of something much bigger than herself. "I know this sounds strange," Clint said, as if reading her mind. "But I see something in you. Something a lot of people miss. People who are stuck in the grind, who are too busy to notice the little things, the things that make the difference." Kara swallowed hard, trying to make sense of it all. The woman who was always running, always hustling just to survive, now faced a man who had built his empire with his own sweat and grit. Yet here he was, offering her a chance she could never have imagined. "What do you want me to do?" Kara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Clint smiled softly, his eyes never leaving hers. "I want to help you get out of this cycle. I want to help you realize your potential. But it's going to take more than just ambition. It's going to take a risk, a leap of faith." Kara's pulse quickened. She had always played it safe, never willing to take risks. But this was Clint Eastwood. If anyone could pull her out of the shadows of her struggles, it was him. "You've been living in survival mode for so long, Kara. You're not meant to just survive. You're meant to thrive." His words echoed in her mind, like a promise. What if he was right? What if she had been selling herself short all these years? The thought of breaking free from the cycle of exhaustion, of chasing the next paycheck, made her heart race with excitement. But the fear was still there, the fear of stepping into the unknown. "What do I need to do?" Kara finally asked, her voice stronger now, laced with a mixture of hope and fear. Clint leaned forward, his eyes locked onto hers. "You need to trust yourself. Trust that this moment is exactly where you're meant to be." And with that, Kara knew that her life was about to change forever. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to take that first step. Clint's words hung in the air like a challenge. Trust yourself. Kara could feel the weight of his statement pressing down on her, as if he were giving her permission to finally step into a life she had never dared to imagine. But how could she trust herself? She had spent her entire life doubting every decision, every move she made. Now here she was sitting in front of one of the most legendary figures in Hollywood, listening to him tell her that she had more potential than she realized. It felt unreal. Her heart raced, but there was a flicker of something else too, a spark of hope. I don't know if I can do this," Kara admitted, her voice cracking slightly. Clint looked at her for a long moment, his gaze steady, unwavering. "You've been doing it this whole time, haven't you?" he said quietly. "You're stronger than you think. All I'm asking is for you to trust that strength." Kara swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. What did he mean by this? Was he asking her to change everything? To take a risk that could either make her or break her? The fear of failure gripped her, but the idea of continuing to live the way she had was even more suffocating. Clint stood up slowly, moving towards the window with an almost regal calmness. "You see, life doesn't always offer second chances," he said, his back turned to her as though lost in thought. "But sometimes the universe brings people together for a reason. This moment, right now, it could be the beginning of something you never thought possible." Kara stood up too, suddenly feeling an overwhelming need to act, to do something that mattered. But what would that something be? What exactly was Clint offering her? "How do I know it's the right move?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Clint turned around slowly, his gaze intense, like he was looking straight through her. "You'll never know if you don't take the first step," His words cut through her doubt, silencing the voice of fear that had held her back for so long. For the first time, Kara felt like she was standing on the edge of something bigger than herself. She took a deep breath. Whatever came next, she knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. The risk felt terrifying, but staying in her comfort zone felt even worse. The room felt charged with energy, as though the very air had thickened with possibility. Kara could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the weight of the decision pressing against her ribs. Clint's words echoed in her mind like a mantra. You'll never know if you don't take the first step. He was right. But what if that first step was too big? What if she failed? What if everything she had fought for, everything she had worked so hard to build, came crashing down because of one impulsive choice? Clint seemed to read her thoughts. He walked slowly back toward her, his steps measured, deliberate. There was no rush in his movement, no sign of doubt in his eyes. He was so calm it was almost unnerving. I know what you're thinking, Clint said, his voice a soft reassurance. The fear of failure is natural. But let me tell you something I've learned over the years. He paused, as though weighing his next words carefully. Failure isn't the end. It's just the beginning of the next lesson. The real failure is never trying, never taking the chance. Kara felt something shift within her. His words were like a key turning in a lock. She had spent her whole life stuck in the same routine, convincing herself that she was too small, too insignificant to ever change anything. But Clint Eastwood, saw something in her. He believed in her when she couldn't even believe in herself. So, Clint said, a slight smile tugging at his lips, are you going to trust yourself or let fear control you? Kara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. This was the defining choice. She could walk out of here, go back to the same life, the same struggles, the same doubts. Or she could take the chance. She could trust. Clint, trust herself. Trust that something bigger was waiting for her. A feeling she couldn't explain washed over her. Something like hope, like fire in her veins. She knew, deep down, that this was the moment her life would change forever. With a newfound determination, Kara looked Clint in the eye. I'll take the chance, she said, her voice steady and clear. Clint's smile widened, a knowing look crossing his face. Good, he said simply. You won't regret it.